In today's video, I'm going to show you guys how to build an awesome value 1440p gaming PC for 2025 and beyond. A system you can actually build right now for around about $1,400, taking into account the current inflated prices. I'll be showing you the parts that I've selected for this build, the kind of compromises you want to make when it comes to maximizing that price to performance ratio, and talking about the exact performance of this build with detailed gaming benchmarks a little later on. Let's do this. The Gigabyte Aorus Master 16 is here with a 240Hz 2560 by 1600 display, up to an RTX 5090 laptop GPU with a staggering 24 gigs of VRAM and Max-Q technology. The choice of CPU spans up to a Core Ultra 9 275HX2 with a turbo of up to 5.4 GHz and 24 cores for maximum power. What's more, there's also up to 64 gigs of RAM and room for a Gen 5 NVMe drive for the ultimate in storage speeds. Learn more at the first links in the description below. Now I'm going to split today's video down into three main sections. I'm going to start, as always, with the parts. What have I picked? Why have I picked it? What could you pick instead if you wanted? I'm then going to go through and actually build the system, see how I get on along the way, and look at detailed performance benchmarks in the third and final section. So you guys can see the exact frame rates in the likes of Apex Legends, Black Ops 6, Alan Wake 2, you name it. I'm going to test it a little bit later on. Now let me start with the CPU and the GPU combo, because obviously in the current climate, in case you've missed it, things are a bit messy. Now, as far as the GPU goes, I've gone for this, the AMD Radeon RX 9070. Now, this card comes in with a manufacturer's suggested retail price that is on par with the RTX 5070, but it gives you more video memory and faster rasterization performance. Currently, these cards are going for just over 650 USD over on Newegg at the time of filming. UK pricing is thankfully a little better, and that price is only coming down. I mean, check out these Newegg listings, lowest price in 30 days on so many of the cards, which shows that I think demand is starting to settle, and waiting out, refusing to pay the inflated prices is really working. Now, in terms of what I'll be pairing this card up with to get the best performance at the lowest possible price, I've gone for this, the last generation AMD Ryzen 5 7600. Now, again, we've seen this CPU floating around on retailers for below the £200, $200 mark, and combined with the GPU, gives us a bit of cost saving to help move the build along. It's still got 6 cores and 12 threads, and if you're gaming at 1440p, you're more likely to run into a GPU bottleneck than you are a CPU bottleneck anyway. Now, as far as some of the other parts go, this CPU cooler is a bit of a new one to the channel. This is the UP1 series from upHere. Very creative brand name. This was actually one of my Amazon finds, looking through Amazon at cheap CPU coolers, and when I came across this, it was exactly what I was looking for. Previously, I've done builds with really popular budget coolers like the Hyper 212 from Cooler Master and the Vetru V5. They're just missing something. They're missing a bit of wow factor, which I think this is going to have. Now, you might be thinking, while I open the cooler up, why have you not just gone for the stock cooler? They're loud, they look ugly, and for the money that something like this is going to cost, I'll leave latest Amazon links for pricing down below. This just makes so much sense. And look how nice it is. You've got the nice big 120mm fan on the front. You've got this black design with, I think this is an RGB zone here, and then the heatsink at the back is 3D. It's just really, really nice. We've got 4 heat pipes. It's plenty for a 65-watt TDP CPU. Now, let's talk about the RAM and SSD. This is all about value for money, and it's all about squeezing every possible bit of cash that we can out of the build. That's why I've gone for Teamgroup's T-Force Vulcan. It's the cheapest 32 gig, 6000 megahertz low latency kit of memory. You want to be in the region of CL32, CL30 if you can. DDR5 is really powerful if you get it right, but if your speed's too low, your latency's too high, it actually provides worse performance than DDR4, believe it or not, which is not good, especially for gaming. Now, as far as the SSD is concerned, I've gone for the Crucial P3 Plus. This particular drive is marked as the 2TB option, but you can save again a bit more cash by going for the 1TB. It's only entry-level Gen 4, but it's quick enough for what we need today, and Gen 5 is frankly way overkill. As far as motherboard goes, this is another recent purchase, and this is the MSI Pro B850-P Wi-Fi. Now, this board is really quite nice because it gives us Wi-Fi, which is absolutely critical for a modern gaming PC. I would find it hard to recommend you build a system without that functionality, and it just gives us all the connectivity we need at, once again, an affordable price point. A quick look at the motherboard and you'll see exactly what I mean. With the AM5 socket just here, 4 DDR5 RAM DIMMs for dual channel performance, bit of VRM cooling, things like toolless NVMe installation, a nice quality of life features, and on the rear I/O, there's fully bona fide Wi-Fi 7, optical audio, which often goes missing, and even a 5 gigabit Ethernet port. Cheaper boards will often only have 2.5 gig or 1 gig, so this board, in that respect, is it's very nice actually. As far as the power supply is concerned, this is an area where you've got to be very careful you don't try and chop out too much of the budget. This is the ATX3 and PCI Gen 5 MSI A750G out, and I didn't realise this until planning parts for today's build, is the #1 bestseller for Newegg in power supplies. Who would have thought MSI sold more power supplies on Newegg than literally everybody else? That's actually slightly mad, isn't it really? I would highly recommend you go for an ATX3 and PCI Gen 5 power supply. The graphics card in this build doesn't use the new connector, so it isn't critical, but when you're trying to save money, there are areas where you should and shouldn't try a bit harder. The power supply isn't one of those. Now then, I also want to talk about the case in today's build, because in many ways, it was kind of, it sounds really cheesy, the inspiration for today's system. What I mean by that is that Lian are often a brand known for making premium, expensive computer cases. This is, in the best way possible, neither of those things. Now this is the Lian V100, and it's their take on your sort of like fish tank, single chamber budget PC cases. But they do things in a typically Lian way, which is very good. So we've got a tempered glass side panel that's actually got a bit of acoustic foam dampening down one side. I really like that the panel is funky and actually not a complete square. It's pretty cool. It's got a nice perforated power supply shield with this dip at the bottom to allow for 3 120mm intake fans on the side. You've got room to actually mount fans on the top of the power supply shield, a nice curved diode, but we actually got USB 3 Type-C and our HD audio port. Looking inside, there's support for rear connect motherboards like Asus BTF and MSI Project Zero. All of the panels feel pretty good. I mean, that is very much a plastic panel, but it feels nice. The dust filter's built in, looks fairly easily serviceable and cleanable. And the kicker, $69 US. Yes, I mean, doesn't get much better than that. The only thing about it that isn't amazing is that you don't get any fans. So I'm going to put some of my own fans in here. I'll link a good few options down below. We're not going to be putting in Lian's like fancy unifans, just general 3-pin 5-volt ARGB, so that hopefully we can sync up to this integrated LED strip too, which I also really very much so like. So with all the parts pretty much ready to go, I'm going to start as always with the motherboard and begin by installing as much into this as possible. The processor is first, so just remove the arm, lift the socket cover up, drop the CPU into place with the little golden triangle located in this top left corner, and return the arm back down. RAM or memory is next. That's going to be in the 2nd and 4th slots. Super low profile kit, this Teamgroup kit. Bit of pressure on both sides, and that is looking really rather nice. As mentioned earlier, this is toolless, so simply lift off the heatsink, slide the drive in, bit of a 45-degree angle, like a plane landing, and then you push it down. And then, of course, finish things off by adding the M.2 heatsink back into place. You will need at this stage to consult the manual for the CPU cooler, which is the next portion. And if I take a quick look at where the AMD instructions are, you can see that steps 1 and 2 are to remove the pre-existing hardware and add the new dedicated hardware. Once this hardware has been installed, you should be able to see 2 little screw threads, one here and then one on the other side. They are what the CPU cooler is going to attach into. So just to repeat, take the stock mounting hardware off, add the included mounting hardware back on, and then the cooler is going to secure on top of that. The fan stays on, aka you don't take it off, but just remember a little dab of thermal paste before you screw the cooler down. The completed motherboard assembly is then ready for prime time. By that I mean put it in the case. I don't mean the energy drink. Anyway. Right, let's put the cables through for the cooler. Just thread those through for now, gets them out of the way. And once they're in, the motherboard should line up with the pre-installed standoffs nice and easily. Because this is an ATX board and a standard ATX case, all the standoffs are in the right locations. And Lian are one of these amazing brands that actually gives you a little organized toolkit included. So you can use the screws to secure the board down, but once you're done with them, you can organize everything you've got left in this nice little toolkit. Very good indeed. Now, technically at this stage, I could go a bit gonzo and put the graphics card in, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to go ahead and deal with some of the cable management, some of the cables and the wiring. Now, if you look at the back of the case here, you'll see a few things. These cables here are what I actually ran through for the CPU cooler, so we'll be dealing with those a bit later. And then tucked inside here are all of the front panel cables. First and foremost, this one here is our USB 3 Type-A. We've also got a HD audio connector. That's a blocky one and it actually has a pin missing, so it only goes in one way round. This is for the headphone and mic jack. Confusingly, there's a second USB 3 connector, but this is for the Type-C USB port, so obviously a bit more bandwidth, speed and power. And then there's also this front panel connector block here, labeled F panel. This looks very similar to HD audio, but has all black wires underneath rather than the different coloured ones. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run all of those up to the appropriate places on the motherboard. HD audio to the bottom left, front panel to the bottom right, and then our USB 3 connectors to the right hand side, one lower and one slightly higher up. And I'm also going to run in the 4-pin fan and 3-pin ARGB connectors as well to ports on the motherboard, such that the RGB strip and our CPU cooler and CPU cooler fan all sync up nice and easily. There's various different fan and RGB connections. Normally there's some at the top of the board and normally some extra ones down the very bottom too. The next step then is the power supply. Now I'll be installing the PSU today in a fan down orientation to pull air from underneath the chassis. I'm wiring up the following cables for the CPU in the top left corner and the motherboard on the right hand side. I'll also be getting a cable ready for later for the installation of the GPU. The card in this build, of course, uses the older style 6+2 pin connectors, so no PCI Gen 5 cable needed here. And when the power supply is in, I'm then going to do the fans before finishing off with the GPU. These are Valkyrie's B12s. I've gone for 3 reverse and 1 standard. I'll link some good, affordable 120mm fans below, and if you can get the reverse blade ones, definitely do so, as it's going to look so much better on the intake of the case. So 3 intake on the side in total, 1 in the back in exhaust, and I'm going to leave the top of the case empty for now. And I'm gonna finish up with the graphics card, our 9070. Now, I think this is actually gonna look really nice in this case. So far, pretty much finished building in this now, and I have to say I'm quite impressed. I think Lian and Lee have done a good job at what is an incredibly competitive price point. The only thing obviously is this version with no fans. You've got to then pick some fans up, and you want those reverse blades in order for the build to look really any good. Now, I'm gonna remove the 2nd and 3rd PCI lanes in today's build for our graphics card. Make sure the PCI slot is pushed back, slide the GPU into place, and then add the thumb screw back in. So there's one there, the second one at the top, and I'm just going to hold the GPU up while I do this to prevent any GPU sag before finishing things off with a couple of power cables and turning the build on to see if it's going to power up, and if so, how good it looks. Here we go. Oh yes, that RGB strip's lovely, and the cooler looks great too. A bit of tidying up, and this thing is going to look awesome. Moving through to take a look at performance, and it's clear that this build does pretty well at 1440p across the board. All the numbers on your screen now are at 1440p high settings. A closer look into some of these titles, Apex Legends for example at 1440p high, pretty much reaches the 300 FPS average cap. Alan Wake 2 sits just below 100 frames per second with an average of 99.7, while Marvel's Rivals at 1440p high rasterization averages nearly 150 FPS with 145 frames per second on average. The Ryzen 5 7600 and RX 9070 non-XT make for a great combination at 1440p gaming, and cost savings on the CPU at a resolution where CPU is less likely to be the bottleneck really makes for a great value system. Remember, as always, you can find links to all the parts in the description below for Amazon and Newegg. Get subscribed to see more from me. Thanks for watching, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.